What is going on, everybody? Today I will be previewing the second of three Big Ten versus SEC New Year's 6 bowl game clashes, which is the game between Ole Miss and Penn State. But in the last video, I did preview the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Missouri, which was posted on the channel yesterday. So if you guys want to, go back and check out that video because that was a fun one. But today we are previewing the Peach Bowl between Ole Miss and Penn State, and I will also be giving my prediction on the outcome of the game at the end of the video. So be sure to tune in for the whole video if you want to know my prediction. But before I do get into this video, let me remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys love college football, this is the channel for you because we post a ton on this channel, and we will have more New Year's 6 bowl game previews coming out this week. So tune in for more daily videos like this one. And I hope everybody is enjoying their holidays and excited for 2024. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The Big Ten versus SEC clash between Ole Miss and Penn State will take place December 30th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. This game will be played in Atlanta, Georgia, so I guess Ole Miss will have home field advantage. But that won't really matter because Ole Miss doesn't really have that big of a home field advantage. But Penn State is the 4-point favorite at the time this video is being made, but the spread tends to change a lot, so it could be completely different by the time this video gets uploaded. But this game should be a battle and a very close game, and there will be a lot of factors that can play into this game. These are two teams that have had their fair share of weaknesses and bad performances, but they still both managed to finish with a 10-2 record and make it to a New Year's 6 bowl game, which you could look at as a positive depending on what your expectations were for your team this year. And it's going to be interesting to see that Ole Miss offense versus that Penn State defense. Penn State has been one of the toughest teams on defense this year, and their two only losses come against Michigan and Ohio State in games their offense really struggled to do anything. And that's nothing new for Penn State, because they are always overshadowed by Michigan and Ohio State, and the reality has been 10-2 at best for a while now, and they have not managed to take that next step, and they are still yet to make the playoffs, and are consistently good, but they just can't get over that hump of being third or second best in the Big Ten. But that's kind of a Big Ten thing, because Ohio State has also lost 3 in a row to Michigan, so as of lately, I guess I could say Michigan has basically owned the Big Ten, but next year we got more teams joining, so it will be very interesting to see some big time matchups. And Michigan has the whole cheating situation, so who knows what will happen. But with the 12-team playoffs starting next year, we may see more opportunities for Penn State to make a name of themselves. But Ole Miss also had a pretty good season, and they've shown some improvement over the last couple years. And if you ignore that horrible blowout loss to Georgia, you could say this team had a really good season this year. But Ole Miss and Penn State both have 2 losses to possibly the 4 best teams in college football. It's at least debatable, because Penn State lost to Michigan and Ohio State, and Ole Miss lost to Alabama and Georgia. Some people may debate that those are the best 4 college football teams of all time. But even with the loss Ole Miss suffered to Georgia getting absolutely destroyed, they still managed to put together a 10-2 season. And a lot of the success Ole Miss has had was because of their offense. This year Ole Miss was 3rd in yards per game in the SEC, and averaged 34 points per game. And that's very tough to do in the SEC, playing teams like Georgia and Alabama. But that Ole Miss offense was pretty solid. But they will be playing a really good defense, and let's be real, Penn State's defense is the only reason they made a New Year's 6 bowl and finished with a 10-2 record. Their offense is pretty average. It's definitely not as bad as Iowa's offense, but nobody can touch Iowa's terrible offense. But my point is Penn State has an average offense and an elite defense, and that's not going to win you championships, but it can win you some big games. And when Penn State played Michigan and Ohio State, they really struggled to move the ball, and quarterback Drew Aller was pretty bad. And those are the biggest games you need to win. But if there's anything that can win this game for Penn State against Ole Miss, it will definitely be that defense. Penn State ranks 3rd in points per game on defense this year, so this will be a different type of defense for Ole Miss to play. And Ole Miss doesn't have any really good quality wins this year outside of their win against LSU, who was their only ranked win in a game they won 55-49. Ole Miss has played some really good defenses like Georgia and Alabama, but they lost both of those games. And Ole Miss will definitely not score 50 against that Penn State defense like they did against LSU. But they definitely have a chance to win the game. These are 2 solid teams, but both are very beatable and have their weaknesses. But let's kind of talk about some of the talent on these teams. For Ole Miss, a big part of the reason you guys have been really solid on offense is because of a quarterback like Jackson Dart, and you guys also have a pretty good coach and offensive coordinator. But a guy like Jackson Dart has thrown for just under 3,000 yards on the year, for 20 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. And if you look back at how many interceptions Jackson Dart threw last year, you would see a ton of improvement. Because last year he threw 11 interceptions, and the team only went 8-5. And now they are 10-2 and playing in a bowl game, Not just a bowl game, but a New Year's 6 bowl game. Ole Miss also has many guys that can make plays catching the ball. They got 3 receivers with 700 or more receiving yards on the season, and the receiving leader is senior Trey Harris with 851 receiving yards for 8 touchdowns. This Ole Miss offense has tons of weapons, so it will be interesting to see what they can do against a defense that is the caliber of Penn State's. Like I mentioned before, Penn State is 3rd in points per game on defense this season, and they have many big guys up front who are hard to get pushes on, and they are really good at stopping the run. They had a guy like Isaac on the defensive line who has 7.5 sacks on the year, and they also have 3 guys with 2 interceptions on the year, and they've been pretty good at forcing turnovers this year. And all around, this is completely a championship caliber defense. They just don't have the offense. And Penn State's offense is not so great, and they crumble when they play the best teams. And this will be an interesting game because Ole Miss doesn't have a great defense, but they can be tough on defense. But the question is, are they tough enough to beat Penn State? This game is a game of strength versus strength and weakness versus weakness, and these types of games are always fun, and Penn State and Ole Miss are still yet to get any very good wins this season, but this New Year's 6 bowl game win would be huge for any team. But let's get back to talking about Penn State's offense, and a big part of the reason it wasn't great was because of quarterback Drew Aller. He's only a sophomore, and he still has a ton to learn, and some freshmen and sophomores take more time to develop, or they just completely don't develop at all. But Drew Aller definitely needs to make a lot of improvement heading into the 2024 season, playing more tough teams next year with the expansion of the Big Ten. But this year, Drew Aller only threw 1 interception all year. And if you would look at that, you'd say, okay, he's a decent quarterback. Throwing only 1 interception all year, that's got to be tough to do. And that's very surprising. But he only threw for 2,336 yards with a very average completion percentage of 61.1. Maybe he's not comfortable enough in that offense, and maybe he needs to take more risk. But Penn State will have a new offensive coordinator next year, so Drew Aller needs to get some help developing because he hasn't been the best quarterback 1 option for Penn State. But on the other hand, Penn State doesn't really have any great receivers on that team. I mean, they have 2 tight ends near the top of the receiving leaders at 2 and 3, but the first place receiver on that team was decent and showed up in some games, and his name is Keandre Lambert-Smith, who had 673 yards catching the ball and 4 touchdowns. But that's not very elite. It's decent, but it's not elite. And this offense was just all around average. They will be playing an Ole Miss defense that may give the offense trouble. Ole Miss has some good edge rushers, and they've sacked the quarterback 34 times on the year, which is a pretty big number. And their defense has actually done pretty well in some games. But like I said, they completely sucked on defense against LSU. And when they played Alabama and Georgia, they didn't really stand a chance. Definitely when they played Georgia, they got completely outplayed on every single aspect of the game. Offense, defense, special teams, you name it. But Penn State isn't necessarily on the caliber of Georgia or Alabama, so we think. So this game may be difficult to predict, but I do expect a lower scoring game. And it is time to give my prediction on the Peach Bowl between Ole Miss and Penn State. And I do have Penn State winning a close game, 24-21. Last game I picked Missouri to beat Ohio State, but today I'm swapping and picking the Big Ten team to win the game. And this would be pretty big for Penn State because they have no quality wins this year, and beating the number 11 team in the country would at least be a positive for a team that didn't really live up to expectations. But Penn State never lives up to expectations. But are Penn State fans happy with going 10-2? I don't know. 10-2 is a pretty decent season if you ask me. But the conference they played in was full of trash cans outside Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And somehow Iowa got ranked in the top 20 for part of the season. But I mean, I guess Penn State beat a ranked Iowa team and shut them out. But it's honestly a joke. Iowa football is completely atrocious. But I'm excited for the New Year's 6 bowl game this year. Penn State versus Ole Miss should be an interesting game. These are basically teams who would be competing in the 12-team playoff next year. So I guess with these New Year's 6 bowl games, we are getting previews for the 12-team playoffs next year. But I expect a lower scoring close game, but I am going with Penn State to pull it off. But I really think the X factor in this game may be who can force the most turnovers. And Penn State has been really good at forcing turnovers this year. So we'll see how this game turns out in the end. I'm definitely looking forward to this game though. You guys let me know in the comments below who you got winning this game. But that is going to do it for the video. Hope you guys are enjoying these New Year's 6 bowl game previews. I figured I'd show some appreciation to these almost pointless games, but it is what it is, and football is football, and these are some pretty interesting matchups, so I guess that's a plus. But hope everybody is enjoying their holidays, and I hope you guys are excited for the new year like I am. And let me remind you to leave a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, this is definitely the channel for you, because we post a ton, and we have a lot of videos planned for the new year, and we are on the road to 1,000 subs, so please consider helping me out and subbing to the channel. But happy holidays, everyone, and peace out.